Hey guys, it's Katie, and I'm here today to do my February wrap-up and my March TBR. So anyway, February was not the greatest reading month for me for several reasons. One, the Olympics took quite a bit of my attention, so I just didn't get to read as much. Second, I was just in a really fan fiction mode. So I read a lot of fanfic instead of actual books. And so I didn't make as much headway in February as I could have. But I managed to read some things anyway, so I'll mention those. So the first thing I read in February was Fire and Fury by Michael Wolff, and I gave that a 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. It was really interesting, and it has some relevancy, and I learned some new things from it despite watching the news and reading articles and things. And even though some of the information in that book is moot at this point, either it's not relevant anymore or we found out new information that completely contradicts the thing, I found value in it regardless. Then second thing I read in February was The Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan, and I really enjoyed this book. I was a little bit skeptical at first, I will admit, because I was a double major in ancient studies and medieval studies. So I knew a lot of the myths and the tales and the characters mentioned in this book, and I was a little bit nervous that it was going to take away from my experience. It kind of did the opposite. I ended up really loving this book, and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Then third, I've started, I don't think I'm going to finish it by the end of February, but I've started Lights Out by Ted Koppel, which is about basically what would happen in the event of a complete blackout, like grids taken out and wouldn't have access to food or water or just any means of communication really, and just kind of how you would survive something like that. Hoping to finish that by the end of the week if I can, but this week's gonna be maybe a little bit chaotic, so I might have to push that back a little. And then I didn't get to some of my other books. I didn't read any Animorphs in February, and I didn't get to 1984, although I'm hoping to just kind of like shift and read that quickly at the beginning of March, within like the first 2 days or so, but we'll see what happens. I'm in a mindfulness class, and as you guys might have seen on Goodreads, I've been updating my books as I go, as we read them in class. But the first book I'm reading for that class is called Mindset, The New Psychology of Success. And it's written by this psychologist person named Carol S. Dweck. It's okay. It's not the best thing that was ever written, ever, but I'm finding it interesting and just kind of seeing a lot of myself in this book, talking about how that there are like different mindsets, and depending on what kind of person you are or what situation you're in, you might have a different kind of mindset, and just how you can change them. I have no basis for how I'm gonna rate it yet, but it's interesting enough. And the second book that I'm reading is called The Anxious Lawyer, and it's written by 2 lawyers named Gina Cho and Karen Gifford. And basically what this book is all about is it's about their experiences dealing with the stresses of being a lawyer, and just kind of how they got into mindfulness and meditation. And then they include, it's basically an 8-week program that does different types of mindfulness activities that you can incorporate into your life, both on the cushion, so sitting meditation, and then also off the cushion, so just in everyday life. And I'm really enjoying doing the actual exercises for the class. The stories are interesting, but some of the things that they say in the book are more for practicing attorneys, I think, and then also just for certain situations. And so I don't connect to it as hardcore as I could, but it's a really interesting read, and it's kind of preparing me for what real practice potentially might be like, and introducing me to ways that I can deal with the stress and anxieties that come with the profession. So I'm really enjoying this book so far as well. Now for my March TBR. I've got an ambitious TBR again, and it's probably going to change. And basically what's going to happen is if I don't finish a book in a month, it's just going to get shifted back to the next month. But I've got, 4 main books I want to get through, but I have priorities this time. Before, I haven't really had like major priorities, but this time even though there are several books that I want to read, there are some that I'm going to prioritize. So the first book I'm going to read in March, or when spring break happens, because that's going to be a thing. That's Blood of Dragons by Robin Hobb. And if you have spent any amount of time on my channel, you know that Robin Hobb is like my everything. But this is the 4th book in the Rainwild Chronicle and the 13th book in the Realm of the Elderlings series. Yeah, that series is ridiculously long. There are 16 books total. I can't believe I'm almost done. I just can't believe it. But this follows the events of the prior books in the Rainwild Chronicle. So we'll be back with Carson and Hest and Elise and Leftrin and the dragons, and it's just going to be a conclusion of this segment of the world, and I'm super excited to get to this. You do not understand how excited I am to get to this. I wish I was able to read it in January right after I finished City of Dragons, but school got in the way. And so when spring break rolls around, this will be my priority, and I'm really looking forward to it. Next book I'm planning on reading in March is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. And basically what that's about is it's about Patroclus and Achilles' love story. So it starts when they were teenagers, and it works their way up to the time that we know them and came to their story in the Iliad. And I know it's going to be a lot to read because I know the story, I know how it ends, and it's going to break my heart. And I'm going to sob. That's going to be probably like 2 books potentially where I'm like going to cry my heart out. But I'm really looking forward to reading that. Then the 3rd book I'm planning on reading in March is The Legend of Sigurd and Gudrun by J.R.R. Tolkien, which basically this is, I believe, just a translation of the Norse myth. J.R.R. Tolkien is another one of my ultimate faves, and so I'll just jump on any opportunity I can to read his books because they are masterpieces. So I'm looking forward to getting to this at some point as well. And finally, for the main books, I'm planning on getting to Murder on the Appian Way by Stephen Saylor, which is part of his series called the Sub Roma series, but you can read them as standalones. You don't need to read them in order. I didn't. I read Catalina's Riddle several years ago, and I started this one, but then I got too busy, and then I just kept forgetting about it because I got swept up in schoolwork, and so I think it's finally time we start to get back to Gordianus the Finder and his life and the chaos of this beautiful author's works, because basically what these all of these books take place in ancient Rome, and all of them deal with a murder mystery. I love his books. They're so witty and funny and interesting, and I recommend any of his books to you. Personally, Catalino's Riddle is my favorite. I mean, it's the one that I've read so far, but it'll also be probably the one that stays deep in my heart the most. And if I can manage to squeeze in some Animorphs, that will also be in here at some point. I don't know how many I'll get to, so I'm just not gonna even bother saying. But I'm hoping to finish the series by June. Just by the time June rolls around, I want to be completely finished with Animorphs. That's my goal. We'll see if it happens. But anyway, that's my February wrap-up / March TBR. And yeah, that's about all I've got for you today. So as always, feel free to like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media. I have a Twitter, Tumblr, and Goodreads. And I will come back with another video for you guys again soon. Okay, bye.